Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my entitled mother-in-law claimed she owns my new car and tried to steal my Tesla. I taught her a lesson. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Hey, my name is Sarah and I've got a mother-in-law from hell. My partner and I spent months planning a vacation during spring break, which we both sorely needed to be away from our jobs for a little while. Even though we both have high-paying jobs, it means we get little rest or time to ourselves and are always exhausted. It will be nice not to worry about that stuff for a little while, and there is also the issue of an overbearing parent with my mother-in-law ringing us constantly because she needs something and flies off the handle if we don't follow orders, like the last thing we want to do when we finish work are her chores as well, so I guess this is also a little time to get away from her. We planned to fly so we could relax on the trip. That meant leaving my prized Tesla at home, which I struggled with internally before we left, as well as the way there. After a great week, we got ready to fly home, but on the last day our hotel room was broken into. Everything was either broken or stolen. Luckily, we still had our phones on us, but both our bags, our keys, all gone. My partner called his parents to explain the situation and was surprisingly met with little sympathy. We had to get friends to wire us money so we could stay at the hotel while the police looked for our stuff. The next morning, while we waited, we get another phone call from the mother-in-law. She says her car has broken down and wants us to come over and pick her up. We stood silent for a moment, baffled by what she said. We were not sure if she forgot our situation or just did not care. She repeated herself more sternly, like it was an order than a request, and we had to patiently explain that we couldn't do that. She then hung up. An hour passes and she calls back asking us again to pick her up, but my partner, doing the best he can, says he will call a friend or a mechanic to come out and help. She then hung up, he sighed, and I could tell that he loved her, but even this stress was too much for him. With all piling on at once, at the end our holiday was turned into an utter nightmare. We did not hear back from her until the next day to complain about something else. No thanks or hint of gratitude in her voice at all. Her car was going to be in the shop for a while as they need to order some new parts into the local garage, but she still needed to get around occasionally. She didn't need to work anymore but liked to go shopping and go to coffee shops. A pause followed as she waited for us to help, but instead I asked if she had thought of using the bus. She was very expletive in our reasoning as to why she would not be doing that and what I could do with my opinions. My partner tried to stand up for me, seeing as we still had issues of our own and were hundreds of miles away, we were in no position to help her even if we wanted to, and we didn't want to. Then a light bulb seemed to click in her head when she realized we had to leave my Tesla at home. As soon as she brought the Tesla up, my face dropped, expression shifting into nervous horror as she danced around the question. She asked if she could borrow my Tesla for a little while, but there was no way I was going to agree to that. With my partner's support, we were able to explain that she could not, and for once she seemed to understand. The phone call ended after that, but we felt like we dodged a bullet. We received a call from the local law enforcement later that afternoon to say they recovered our belongings and could come down to the station to pick them up. Despite all the added hassle, it looked like we would be finally able to return home soon. His phone needed to charge, so my hubby stayed to organize the flights while I went downtown to get our things. I get a call 2 hours later from the devil herself looking for my hubby, angry at the idea that she might be getting ignored even after I tell her the phone was off. She nonchalantly shrugs it off as our fault anyway, and in a casual tone says that she needed to borrow my Tesla to run some errands. My Tesla! When I confronted her about it, she became defensive and argumentative. As if we hadn't already asked her not to use it. The conversation ended in a tirade of insults and warnings that left me red and furious as I stormed back to the hotel. She had let herself into our home with the spare keys we gave in case of emergency, and then after rooting through the kitchen for the car keys, helped herself to the Tesla and left. She saw no problem with that, and in fact she claimed she now owns the Tesla because of the money that she helped us put down on our first house, and that I should be grateful enough to let her use it, trying to twist me into the bad guy here. I told her to leave it at my house as she was not allowed to use it, but she flat out refused, knowing that there was nothing I can do about it right now. I bet she was even smirking too. Catching the next and earliest morning flight we could, hurried back and arrived home to a house with a very empty driveway. Mother-in-law still had my Tesla. Despite my partner desperately trying to mediate and calm us both down, I ended up calling the cops, and after resisting arrest she was taken to a padded cell following a much needed psych evaluation. His side of the family have since disowned me, glaring daggers into my back at each social gathering while trying to argue that I was wrong to get her arrested, that she was sick, and that she did not know what she was doing. She needed help, and yes, she did need help. And now she can have it and stay there. And yeah guys, I was kind of surprised that the story ended so abruptly. However, I guess what we can take away from that ending is that the mother-in-law apparently had mental health issues and ended up in a mental hospital or something like that. Either way, let's continue on to the next story. This one is titled Reality Check for an Entitled Woman from Hell. The past 3 days we've been dealing with a nice enough couple, I would say in their late 30s, who just started a family and are renovating their home. They are only planning on living there for a few years, so the resale value was a factor for them. Context: I work as a designer at a tile and flooring company, helping people select materials. This particular couple booked an appointment with my coworker we will call C. She has been in the industry for years, and through a series of unfortunately timed buyouts, her high-end showroom closed, so she ended up here. I am lucky to work with someone with so much experience, knowledge and taste, so she is who you really want if you don't have any idea what you are doing. The first day they came in, C worked with them for nearly 4 hours. Our appointments are usually around an hour, and the woman just could not make up her mind. She did not pay attention when they were walking the showroom and had to go back and look again. And C was also getting so frustrated, but pulled through, and by the time they left, the couple had bought the materials they needed and they seemed confident and happy with the design. The overnight team pulls their order to store in the warehouse to pick up in a few days. Well, the next day I see that they made another appointment with C, and I offer to help her with the couple since she was so frustrated the day before. I figured I could offer a second opinion and support C and grab samples and whatnot. Instead of picking out their flooring and fireplace ledger, this woman wanted to focus on the bathrooms because she changed her mind from the day before. This takes nearly 2 hours. Fine, they make their changes to their order, pay the difference and seem confident and happy with their selection. The next day, she calls the store and said there is an issue with their purchase and she was overcharged. C then puts her on hold and reviews the first order, the changes and additions they made the day before, and confirms the amount with the cashier who rang them up. The cashier, we will call CC, audited all of their transactions and meticulously combed through everything, confirming the charges were accurate. Well, while C and CC were doing this, she hung up and called back. Another employee not in the design apartment answered, and she made even more changes to this frickin' order. CC decided that she would refund the previous transactions and ring in the latest updated order to simplify everything. The mod literally said no, she will not be making changes or purchases over the phone, and she needed to come in and deal with our operations manager because this cannot continue. This woman literally cannot make up her mind and will get sat down and told that we will not be able to keep making changes to her order, and if she is uncertain, she can just take samples home and come back when she is. The thing is though, she spent 6 hours with a designer only to disregard C's advice and my input as well. Why work with a designer if you're not going to listen anyway? 6 hours of one-on-one attention when it takes most people an hour or less to choose, and you still change your order 3 times. She is a sweet woman, but damn. There is not even planning on living there for more than 3 years. I've never met someone so indecisive in my entire life. I can't wait to see how it works out when she comes in today. And the next one is titled, "You think my property belongs to you?" Nope, this is probably pretty tame even by petty revenge standards, but hopefully you guys will get a kick out of it. Years ago, when I lived at my mom's, I would mow the yard every week. It was a hill, too steep for a riding mower, and a hassle to mow with a push mower. It was rough, but I usually got it done. Our next door neighbor was an asshat and he didn't like us and we didn't like him. Long story short, he was the kind of guy to call the police if me and my friends were hanging out on the porch talking at a normal volume before 11 p.m, which is the city's noise ordinance time. A real prick. He got his hillside terraced and the bricks he used jutted into our yard a few inches. When I mowed, I would just go straight down the hill from where the edge of his bricks were, and that was the edge of one side of the yard. The terraces did not go all the way down the hill, so about halfway down I would clear the bricks and it would be open. Well, apparently, one day he decided that the property line did matter and he would flat out refuse to mow a strip adjacent to our yard. The 6 inches or so that the brick terraces covered made my edge line slightly off, but my reasoning was that if he considered it part of his yard when he got the landscaping done, it was part of his yard when he wanted to mow. He disagreed, and slowly a narrow strip of grass would grow, a green mohawk of pettiness dividing our yards. He was a meticulous gardener, often out on sunny days tending to his garden, keeping his grass in pristine green condition. He cared very deeply about his yard and therefore assumed that anyone else would care about their yard almost as much. However, I did not give a damn about the yard or its appearance. I literally only mowed because my mom told me to. If the decision to mow was left up to me, it would have blossomed into a Costa Rican rainforest. With music blasting in my headphones, I would mow right next to that yard hog every week, and it would have been absolutely no skin off my nose to move the mower over 6 inches and trim the hog. But I didn't, because that was extra work my lazy ass didn't want to do, and also F him. So, for at least a solid 1.5 months one summer, he engaged me in a battle of wills, sometimes literally watching me go right past the yard hog while refusing to mow it when he did his yard. One time, I caught him staring and waved. He must have assumed that I had an iron will to refuse to bow to his silent demand that I mow that 6-inch wide 50-foot long stretch of grass when my motivations lay entirely in the realm of apathy, laziness and pettiness. And one day, one sweet day that I will always remember, I saw him using his full weight to body his mower over the now nearly 2-foot tall grass. The yard hog popped up a few more times, but it never got that tall again, and I sure as hell never mowed it. F you, Dave. And the next one is titled, "The Best Ongoing Revenge of All Time." So this is an ongoing battle, but I think at this point I have gotten my revenge and then some even more. So basically, my block has an alleyway that is fairly narrow, and many of the houses have driveways that exit to the alleyway to the main road. The lots on the opposite side of the alleyway are also offset a bit, so there are 2 driveways directly across from what used to be my backyard fence. And between these driveways is a giant shrub that both of the neighbors refuse to get trimmed or removed. So it reduces visibility pretty heavily. This usually means that they make some sharper turns backing out since it spills over the end of each of their driveways. Anyway, my backyard fence was about 1.5 feet into my property, and there is plenty of room to back into the alleyway from both my neighbors' driveways. However, both of them back out and pay little to no attention, so over the last 2.5 years I have lived here, at least twice a day, both of them hit or scraped the fence to the point where one day the neighbor to the right hit the fence so hard, half of it came down. To keep it shorter, and I know this has been a verbose post so far, in this part, yes, we did contact the neighbor and give them an invoice for getting our fence fixed, and yes, we have video footage of both neighbors hitting it, and yes, we have contacted the local courts, but that has been fruitless since getting a civil case like this would-be is not even close to a priority to them currently. So my wife and I decided to take some more drastic action. Since we knew another chain link fence would just get destroyed again, we went with a brick and concrete wall that also gave us the benefit of more privacy and a much more substantial iron gate to the alleyway for our access. Of course, the best part is we had the contractor put it just 1 foot in on our property instead of the 1.5 feet, and yes, we checked with the city to see if it was legal. It was, so there is even less of a buffer zone for both neighbors to back out like idiots. And the next one is titled Wrong Parking Lot. I was a teacher at a preschool on a very busy 6-lane road with bicycle lanes. Next to the preschool is a small compact shopping center that has the very popular Trader Joe's as the anchor store. Their parking lot entrance is immediately right after ours. The preschool's big signage is at the very narrow entrance. 2 cars can squeak by, but very tight. Also, there is a tall chain link fence and several beautiful flowering bushes that separated the 2 parking lots. Being a preschool teacher, once upon a time, a tired and weary teacher on a glorious Friday Eve had set out to return to her humble abode. Her Prince Charming was waiting. I was the last of the teachers to set out for the weekend and the parking lot was empty. I pulled up to the sidewalk to join the hordes of busy subjects racing hither and thither. I have to cross over 3 lanes to reverse my direction and take a while for the stars and planets to align. I am in the middle of the driveway. There is no reason for any carriages to pull in. All the tiny humans have been picked up. Traffic is rolling slow and I have to wait. Then all of a sudden, this shiny new black carriage driven by an evil which cannot be described comes screaming down the bicycle lane like she had heard her castle has come under attack. But no. She starts to inch towards me and to pull into the school's parking lot. I gleefully shake my head and point towards the other entrance. Fair lady, Trader Joe's is just yonder. You have the wrong parking lot. Her round black eyes transformed into a sinister glare and waggled her finger at me like a magic wand and pointed with all her might for me to back up. I sat there dumbfounded that she waggled her finger at me. I happily chortled to myself and waggled back, again trying to have her gaze upon the yonder parking lot. This action infuriated our evil driver as she inches closer to my carriage, and again. The nerve, as she was wanted to enter my kingdom. Okay, if the evil woman wants in, so be it. I reverse my carriage so the witch can maneuver past me. She speeds into the parking lot only to come to a screeching halt. Now this fair maiden is not in such a rush to go home. The evil witch whips around and is behind me to exit. I can feel the stare of her black eyes and hear the drumming of her nails on the steering wheel as we both wait for traffic to ease. And that is, my friends, what you would call perfect petty revenge. And by the way, I'm really curious, if you have ever gotten petty revenge on someone, please let us know in the comments how it went. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow.